Hello and welcome back to my RC channel. I'm AndyRC and today I've received a package from FlexRC. So I thought I'd see what is inside it. Now I've already taken the tape off, etc. And by the way, if you don't know who FlexRC are, I have done quite a few builds of their stuff actually. Probably my favourite flyer at the moment is their Pico X, which I built on the channel. I think I called it a brushless tiny whoop because they have these ducts that go round and stuff. So yeah, let's see what we've got in here. So some nice foam packaging. Let's get this open, see what's inside. Nice package worth of stuff. So what I think this is the Pico Owl. You see, I think it's like a slightly bigger version of the Pico X. So I think this one is about 88mm, something like that. I think this one might be 110, so yeah, look at that. The frame is a little bit bigger, but I guess the idea is it's a bigger tiny whoop than the Pico X is. And of course it will be a 110 micro as well without the duct. So let's see what else we have got in this package here. Wow, look at that. So this looks like some mounts for the camera on the top there. And then this looks like the Pico Cube, do they call it? Or the Pico Core? I always get it wrong. So let's just get this open here. So this is something that you can buy straight from FlexRC. And again, it looks like a Pico BLX flight controller and ESC. And then we have got a XT30 connector on the back there. I may have to swap that out for a JST. I still need to upgrade my batteries to XT30. And XT30 are better because there's better current flow to everything rather than a JST. And these support up to 30 amp. But yeah, it looks like the Pico Core, is it? Or Pico Cube? Something like that. I apologize. I'll put the right one here. And it looks like this isn't going to be too much of a difficult build then. So we just have got the frame here and then this core that's going to sit on there, and then hopefully in here there's some motors. So I've got more mounting things in here, and oh, there's a little buzzer in there as well, so it doesn't look like it's got a buzzer on there, so I will be installing that for sure. What have we got here? Loads of standoffs and stuff. And what have we got here? Please do continuity test between each two wires of the motors you've received before you will attempt to install them. Please don't try and install the motors. If continuity test has failed, then please contact us immediately. Oh, okay. What have we got in here? Let's have a look. Okay, just individual motors. So they are 1104 6500 kV. I think is that the same as these ones? 1104 6500 kV, yeah, so same motors, and there should be 4 of those in there. That is great. So I think this is going to be a pretty easy build. I think Dimitri from FlexRC also given me some stuff as well for my Pico X potentially. So this looks like a Ishin VTX. So it's just like the VTX part of those all-in-one cameras, and then you plug your own camera in, and looks like it's actually got a dipole antenna on there rather than a cloverleaf. So yeah, I think that is to make my Pico X a low profile. Yes, and then we have the camera in here as well. That's awesome. And ooh, look at this. Yes, these look to be the gem fan props. So let me get these open. Everyone has been telling me to try these props, so I'm glad that I'm going to be able to try these out. Let's take a look at what we have got in here. Oh, more goodies by the looks of it. So let's take a look what we've got here. So these are some Rotor X props, and they are the 2.5 inch. So I think that might be yeah, for this, so I think this is going to take a fairly huge prop. And then what have we got in here? I think this is like a camera protector. They look like some kind of bunny ears and stuff. What's great about FlexRC is they just got so much stuff that you can just pick and choose. Look at that. Yeah, those are the 2-inch 2035. It says unbreakable. Yeah, they're pretty cool, they are. Unbreakable, we'll see about that. Some different colors. Oh, this is awesome, man. It looks like we've got a few different battery holders and stuff as well, so that's cool. And then, I don't know what these props are. Oh, look at that, HQ props. Looks like they're doing some micro props as well. What are those there? What size are those? 1.9, so yeah, really tiny. So that means that we don't have to do any prop cutting anymore, I don't think. That's pretty cool. Right, so I think what I'm going to do is get this built. Shouldn't be too difficult because I have this already, so I'm just going to take the frame and build it up, and let's see what I'm able to get from it. So I have got the all-in-one ESC board on here and the flight controller. Very easy to do. I did have to take it all apart though, because the way that they have sent it is we have got a screw that goes all the way through here, and then we've got these little spacers here, and those are just held together by the tension of this screw on the top there. So in order to fit it on this frame I had to take it apart, but that wasn't too much of a problem. The other thing that I have done is I have changed the orientation of the board slightly. So it was set to have the front end facing the same way as the XT30 connector. And I think that is because this little wire that they have provided here isn't long enough to go to the other end. But what I've decided to do is, rather having a mess of wires up this end here, I have switched it around so the USB connector is going to come out of the back, and then this connector is going to go into the side there once I have soldered on the motors, and I'll have to make sure that that doesn't get in the way there. But yeah, I just moved the board around, so this is the front, this is the back, and then we have two slots here if you want to use a battery strap. I'm not going to be using a battery strap though, as I'm going to be using this neat battery holder. I really like it, and you may have noticed I've not switched this out to a JST because I'm going to be using a 3S 450mAh that I found, and I'm going to go online in a minute and buy a load of batteries with XT30s because I've been meaning to do that for a long time now, and it's just the right thing to do. So the next thing I need to do is very easy. It's not much of a challenge this, but that's a good thing because a lot of people just want to get and fly out. I just need to put the motors on here and then solder those up to these ESC tabs here. So I'm gonna guess that's motor 1, 2, 3 and 4, and if not I will correct myself once I have looked it up and soldered it all in. So I have moved on a little bit here, so I have screwed all of the motors on using all 4 of the screws. They're the shortest screws that you get in the pack, and you get loads of screws left over with this, which is good, and I'll tell you why later. Now I cut the motor wires to length here, and I was pleased to see that they are silicone wires. However, they are all stuck together, and so I trimmed the wires because they were too long, and then I peeled them apart at the top here so that I could solder them to the all-in-one ESC board. And what happened with one of them, and this is probably my fault, but you know, just as a warning if you're building this here, one of the wires actually delaminated and it exposed some of the metal cable there. So I have put some liquid electrical tape over the top. Yeah, but just be careful when separating these wires because they don't necessarily separate in the correct place. Probably best to use a knife or some cutters or something like that. But yeah, everything went fine. So I have soldered in a cable here for my receiver. So it goes here, I don't know if you can see the light's a little bit bad, but it goes ground positive, and then signal wire for S-bus goes on the RX UART2 or UART2, not the RC pin. And then I have just soldered a little 2-pin JST connector here on the ones above 45 volt, and that is going to be for the camera. So as you can see, I have installed the antenna protector here, and the idea is that this sits down here on the bottom, but I've left these 2 spaces in, and that is because I wanted a little bit of clearance for my buzzer, so I've installed this beeper here direct to the board as well. And yeah, so you get given extra screws for the motors, and then I have used those screws to screw in the spacers here for the antenna protector. So comes in just 3 parts there, very simple, and then your camera will tension fit into here. So I just have a couple of things left to do. I need to just put the camera on and also the props, but I'm gonna set it up first. And I've also installed this battery holder as well, so that's gonna fit my 450 milliamp 3S battery just nicely. Okay, so here we are in the Betaflight configurator. Now I'm just going to take you through this if you buy this setup, because there's a couple of things that you need to take note of. So I'll just connect to it. You get the Betaflight configurator from the Chrome App Store, of course. So I'm just going to enable expert mode here so we can see all the options. Now ports. The first thing that I needed to do with this is, because I'm using an S-bus receiver, the UART2 was turned on out of the box, and if the UART2 is turned on, then the receiver won't work because it conflicts. So I had to turn that off and put the serial RX here on the UART2, and I think UART1 was turned on and VCP was definitely turned on, so that's fine. So you need to remember the ports like that. Then if we go into the configuration now, if you buy the Pico Core V2 that is already built up, then it is set with a alignment of 180 degrees because that cable doesn't reach over to the other side. Of course, I've got it set to 270 because I've moved mine 1 notch further as well, so that I can have my wires a bit neater. So if you want to upgrade Betaflight, then you need to remember that, and there's a few other things you need to remember as well. So I've got it set up as a serial based receiver for S-bus. Now with this new V2 there is no Spectrum connector, unlike the last one with the Pico X, which I think is a shame. Now you can add a Spectrum receiver to this, but you have to sort of hack into it, which I don't like. So I aren't using a Spectrum satellite with this particular flight controller, which I think is a shame, but it will take an S-bus receiver, so I've got it set up as S-bus here, and it's set up as D-Shot 300 out of the box as well. And then on the VBAT I have just changed the warning to 3.2 because it's a fairly small battery. Of course, you will only get the warning if you've got a beeper installed, but the VBAT does come through. I've not got a battery plugged in at the moment, but I will do in a moment. So everything else here is just stock settings. Failsafe is set to drop, which is fine. PID tuning. Now, I haven't tuned this model yet, but I've put a fairly low PID on because it's such a lightweight model, coming in at just 68 grams in this configuration. And I did a quick test flight and I was getting oscillations, so I've brought the P down and also the D as well. Tend to find that with a light model you can have a lower D. That might be too low, but we'll see on the flight. I've also bumped up the super rate on here as well. And then receiver is TAER for S-bus. And then on the modes, I've got it arming on a 2-position switch. I've got angle, then acro and air mode on the AUX 2, and then beeper on the AUX 3. Now motors now. This is important. Of course, you need to calibrate the ESCs with this as well, but you can also tick this tab here to see your motor direction. So I did that, and before I calibrate the ESCs I changed the motor direction in BL suite. So I soldered all of the motors direct to the ESC board, and that sent all of the motors clockwise. So I had to reverse motors 2 and 3, which you can see here, which sends those counterclockwise. And once I did that, I then calibrated the ESCs. And like I say, the way that you do that is unplug the battery, tick this, move the master to full, plug your battery in, and then drop it down to 0 there. But one thing that I wanted to talk about is that the resource has been changed as well. So if you want to upgrade Betaflight, the best thing to do is go into the CLI and type in dump, and then just copy everything out of here, because the motors have been switched around. So you see resource here, this part here you are going to want to copy. Otherwise, if you flash Betaflight to it with a latest version and do a full erase, then it may reset these, I think. So just in case, copy this, but the resource has been changed. Another important thing that you need to do as well with this board is, if you want to use an S-bus receiver, you have to invert the S-bus signal. So you need this command here, and then you want S-bus inversion on, and then press enter and then type save. I've already done that. So yeah, quite a few things to remember there to do if you want to upgrade Betaflight. And while we're here, just let's check the version. So it's 3.15, so not the latest version. And I know the first thing that people do when they get these models and boards is upgrade to the latest version. Sometimes it's not always such a great idea if quite a lot of the stuff has been changed. When you aren't building up the components yourself, this is like being built and configured, etc. So yeah, just remember those things if you buy this build, otherwise it'll catch you out. So let's just disconnect from there. I'm going to plug the battery in. Make sure that you've got the props off when you do this. So I'm just going to take you into BL suite just to show you the version that it comes with. So 16.5, so it's BL S, and then I've reversed motors 2 and 3, and you press right setup there, and that is all you need to know about the setup. So there you go, that is the build pretty much done. Very easy, so long as you don't get caught out by the setup, so the S-bus inverter and also the alignment and the motor resource change, etc. So just make sure that you follow that. So yeah, I've put some sticky tape on the receiver here, and I have plugged my camera in. So this is a FX797T, and I just got that plugged into this little JST connector here. And I have also just put some cable ties around the camera mount as well. It does tension fit in there, and I guess my only concern is any sort of vibrations with this thing. So I think this material is nylon, like very similar to that TPU style, so it's flexible, which is good for the antenna, but might not be so good with so much power coming through these motors, so I'll have to check that out on the flight. The weight of this, it is 68 grams without the battery, and then it's 111 grams with the battery. So as a size comparison, you can see it's actually not that much bigger than the Pico X. The Pico X comes in at about, I think it's 55 grams. It's 58 grams with this camera on here that I was trying. So this is the camera that also records as a DVR as well. I need to switch that out with my other camera. But yeah, so this one is a little bit heavier, so like 10 grams heavier, maybe more than 10 grams, but just look how much more surface area we've got on that prop. So hopefully we should have more thrust than this one, but I'll have to check that out on the flight. One thing I do want to talk about is these Rotor X props. Now, I'm happy with how they perform and how they have performed in the past. What I'm not happy about is how they have changed them. So, originally, I was using these props, so the 2.5-inch props. These ones are cut down to fit on the Pico X. This is what they are like originally, and they slot together. That's the first thing I don't like about them. So this is one that's been slotted together, but you can see here they just clip in like that. And what would happen with the old ones is, you can see how thin that material is there. They would just snap so easily. So what they have done to get by that is they have made these holes smaller. So you will see on this prop here that the screw that goes through it, it just slides through, right? But on these new ones, you have to screw it in as like a thread. So you can see they do not push in like that. And they're too tight and they don't really work, and there's a knack to getting them onto the motor, because see how these are threaded? It means that you have to screw them first into the propeller and then screw them into the motor. The problem is, if you don't do it in a specific order, you're going to absolutely screw up your motor. So let me see if I can show you. This is a propeller that has got two of the screws put through, and you can see that when the two screws go through this side here and come out on the other side where the cracks are in the propeller, they come out at an angle. They don't fit in properly. So if you then place that on top of your motor and sort of waggled it until you heard a click, which is how I do it, and then use a hex driver to screw them in, it's going to miss the holes of the motor and absolutely screw up your motor, break the thread. That is rubbish. So the knack is to put the screws in where there is not a crack on the other side, and then what happens is the screws slightly point inwards rather than outwards. Can you see there? So they're pointing inwards there and outwards there. So when they point inwards, they get the motor holes and they line up. There is still a problem though. Can you see it actually bends the blade? In fact, if you have a look on this model here, we have two of the blades bent and two of them straight. You can't see it, but there is a slight bend in it there. So we have straight, straight and bent, like that. That one's probably the most extreme. Look at that, look at the bend in that one, straight and then bend. However, they do seem to perform okay. These ones seem to bend more than ones I've had in the past, so I don't know if it's a dodgy batch, but you should not have to pay so much attention whilst putting props on, but they are huge props, so I'll have to see how it flies. But again, make sure you don't get caught out by that, otherwise you could end up ruining the top of your motor and have to replace the motor if it gets that bad. Okay, let's go for a takeoff with this thing. Oh my goodness, that is hovering at about 15% throttle. It is so quiet as well. Oh, I am afraid to do a punch test with this. That is crazy. Wow. Okay. This is nuts. Okay, I can tell you right now, this is the most powerful micro I have. That is nuts. Listen how quiet the thing is. This is going to be incredible to do FPV with. Just get it close to the camera. Close-ish. I can't believe how much power it's got. I'm actually not able to give it full throttle because it just disappears. Let's try it low down. What? That is insane. That is actually insane. Okay, I've put it into acro mode. Everything seems fine so far. But it's hovering on such little throttle, that's going to take some getting used to. So quiet as well. That is nuts. How has it got that much more power? It must be those propellers. Right. Let's come in for a landing and we'll do some FPV with it. So this is definitely the craziest and most powerful micro so far. I do believe that will change, of course. And sadly I've had a lot of rain recently, so it's been difficult to find time to tune this model. So I'm just flying it on the PIDs from earlier, and it flies okay. There's some work to do, but just look at that punch. I would say on par with a 5-inch for sure. Now, there is a little bit of vibration coming through to the camera, and I don't know what the solution to that is, really, because these components are just so close together. I don't know how we would stop that. Even with a solid carbon protector or camera mount, I've still seen vibrations on high throttle. I guess we will just have to see how the technology goes. But for now, this is the craziest micro that I've got. The flight time was amazingly impressive, I guess, because it's just so lightweight. Nearly 5-minute flight time with this 450 milliamp battery, and just look at that air time. The thing just floats because there's so much surface area on those props. Just look at that. You can spend all day upside down. It was a lot of fun. So I will link to this kit in the description and any extra parts that I use, because I think this one is going to be my favourite micro for the moment. I think it could do with an on-screen display, and there's definitely times where it can catch you out, and did catch me out, but hopefully if you follow my video then you won't get caught out by it. But anyway, there you go. That is my build and review of the Lady X. Like I say, I'll put a link in the description to all the parts used. But as always, thanks so much for watching. Please continue to subscribe. Cheers.